Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bootleg Racing League Stone River Shootout qualifying race. The drivers racing in this race tonight are trying to make it into the Stone River Shootout for tomorrow night. Tonight it is the Arca Menards car at Hickory Motor Speedway. Should be a very interesting race. If no other drivers show up, it looks like everyone here will make it in. So this will be a preview to tomorrow night's race. In the booth with me tonight, the king of BRL, J.R. Shepard, and Mr. Aggressive himself, Chris Davis. Also tonight, we'll be talking about other things going on at BRL coming up soon, and with the BRL TV that you guys are watching tonight. In the meantime, let's take a look at the track facts. Chris, go ahead and take it away, please.
Yeah, Hickory Motor Speedway, a famous short track here, been used by NASCAR, a lot of different local and regional series. It's one of my favorite tracks. But I got to tell you, Joe, the ARCA car that we use here in this league, or this class, is one of the most difficult I find to drive. It starts out pretty easy to get around the track, and then that car gets loose real quick. This track here is only 0.36 miles, so 3/10 mile track. So it's short, it's tight, and even by yourself, it's pretty easy to spin this car around. Track conditions tonight, we have 29 inches of pressure and rising. Winds real light. Track temperature 79 degrees, partly cloudy 76. So the track's going to stay nice and cool. That'll be good for the tires. But I still think it could be a difficult drive for these four racers here tonight.
Yes, and to tell us more about that, J.R. Shepard, who has won more races in this car in BRL than anyone. J.R., tell us about the car itself tonight and how difficult it's going to be for these drivers.
Yeah, Joe, it's going to be extremely difficult for these drivers at this track. Particular Hickory Motor Speedway is a very old, very weathered track. A lot of history here, but this track is extremely bumpy, and it will wear the tires out very quickly. We're going to see a lot of tire fall off tonight that these guys are going to be battling. You can see as we're right on board with Adam Shane right now, getting very loose up off the corner. So these ARCA cars, the setups that are in them tonight is the iRacing default. When you go off into the corner, the car gets very light, gets very loose. So you have to not overdrive the entry like we're seeing on screen right now from Neville. If you overdrive it, the car will get loose and immediately come around on you. If you make it through the entry, the car is going to get tight through the center. You're going to have to hesitate to get back on the throttle, and when you get back on the throttle, you're going to have to do it very easy because the car will get loose and spin up off the corner. So these guys have their hands full tonight. This is one of the most difficult tracks to drive this ARCA car around.
Yes, it is. That was absolutely great, JR. I myself have struggled in these cars majorly, trying to get some practice in for tomorrow night. And checkered flag goes out on practice. These guys are going to get 4 laps of qualifying, and it is going to be the average of the 4 laps to decide where they start. What makes that very interesting is that if you get one incident point off track, scrape the wall, even a 0x for barely kissing the wall, there goes your 4 laps. All 4 laps are eliminated.
Sorry, Chris. That's very important, Joe, because you want to get every inch that you can on turn in at this track to try to get the good angle, get the most speed into the corner, and sometimes you rub that wall just barely. If you do that during qualifying, your entire qualifying session will be over.
Yeah, JR and Joe, that's one of the things that I think makes the BRL unique. When they decide to throw out that 4-lap average, that really changes your qualifying approach, because we all know there's some people out there that can throw down one fast lap, get lucky, maybe pull the genie out of the bottle, and perhaps get a quick time. But when it's 4 laps, and you have to add, and it's your average, to your point, JR and Joe, a 0x, barely brushing the wall, you throw all of that away. So you have to be somewhat cautious while at the same time trying to push the edge to get your car on the pole.
Yes, this here's a new technique that we've been trying out. It's all started with our new sprint car tour, where we've run 4 different types of sprint cars. We've ran the dirt midgets, 360 dirt sprints, wingless dirt sprints, the Silver Crown car, and the asphalt sprint car. And I can tell you in doing those races, that 4-lap average is very difficult. One slip and it's all over.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Joe. So in these ARCA cars, with the horsepower and the weight that they have just from the car itself, if you slip the tire one time, if you slide the car going into the corner, or if you slip the tires coming up off the corner, spin them during acceleration, your next lap and a half is gone, because the car feels like it's on ice. So one little mistake like you're talking about there, and you're over with as far as qualifying is concerned. If you do that during the race, you're going to be slow for a lap or two trying to get those tires cooled back down.
Yeah, JR, and you're one of the best in these cars and pretty much anything that the BRL runs. But, I find myself with these, as much as I run dirt, I find these cars are one where you can feel like you're right on the edge, and the next thing you know, your back end is is going forward, and your front end is sliding backwards. Like I can turn these cars around so fast. It really makes you be cautious sometimes when you're trying to throw down a good qualifying lap.
Yeah, and, I've talked to a lot of guys, try to help out several guys in the league and in other leagues, and the one thing they always tell me when I start giving them advice is that it feels like you're going so much slower in the car, but actually your lap time is faster. And that's one of the things you have to do in a heavier stock car, is actually back up your corner entry, be very gentle getting back on the throttle, especially on these short tracks where the track is very abrasive and wears the tires out. And sometimes it feels slow, but the lap time is all that counts. As long as your lap time's fast, you're good.
The classic saying there, sometimes you need to go slow in order to go fast.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's true on a lot of tracks. And especially true, like I said, in these heavy stock cars. The heavy stock cars just do not like overdriving the entry of the corner.
And I can tell you, in my experience, it is very difficult to maintain that mentality. As we look through here, guys are still out on track. I've seen many guys kind of loop it around. I don't know what their laps are counting. It looks like we got 3 guys that have full set in. Adam there at the top of the board with a 14.913. Then it's Neville with a 15.722. And Thomas Hilbert's got the final time thus far with a 17.839. And it doesn't look like the other guys were able to get their 4 laps in, or they must have had an incident of some kind that eliminated their 4 laps.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe. JR.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say, I look back on the 3 guys that were not able to get a time laid down. It does look like on one of those 4 laps, they must have made a 0x contact somewhere, because the lap time did not count.
And what a heartbreak for Joseph Snyder, because he was almost 0.3 of a second faster than anyone else in practice. It would be a great showing for Joseph coming back to the league, joining us here in dirt earlier tonight, now making a last-ditch effort here to join the shootout for tomorrow in the asphalt, and he was the fastest out there in practice. So for him not to make a lap, he's going to have to drive his way through the back here.
Alright, so it looks like we are getting ready to looks like they get a little bit extra practice here. Quick warm-up, 5 minutes, so we'll kind of keep an eye on them, see if they can get a better handle on this car. JR, you said the car is really loose, especially for the first 5 laps or so. Does the car get better as the run goes on, or does it depend on how well you take care of things in those first 5 laps?
Oh, it definitely depends on how you take care of them early on. But the first 5 laps, the tire pressures are low, the tire temps are low, so you need some type of pressure and temperature in those tires in order to get the most grip in these heavy stock cars. Your fastest lap is probably going to be around lap 5, lap 6, somewhere around there. That's when the car really starts to feel the best, and that's going to kind of stay with you for the first 20-25 laps. If you over abuse the car during those first 20 to 25 laps, you're going to start to pay for it for the rest of the run. And these guys don't have any tire changes during this race, so they're going to have to take care of those tires for the entire 80 laps. So you want to have good track position, you want to have good speed, but if you wear your stuff out early, you are going to pay for it. And these ARCA cars tend to get extremely tight through the center of the corner if you overuse the right front tire on corner entry.
And JR, this track here at Hickory, it's not Martinsville, nor is it the big donut of Oxford Plains, Maine. How much are you using the brakes here? Will brakes come into a play? Should they be warming up their brakes to start? Where do brakes come into play on this track?
Yeah, brakes are important. You don't use them a ton, but you do have to use them to get the car set into the corner. And the big thing is you do want to have a little bit of heat into them just because they tend to grab when the brakes are cold, those first lap or two, and can really upset your car and make you feel like the car's doing something other than what it actually is doing. But the biggest thing these guys have in this car, you do have brake bias adjustments that you can make even while you're racing, and you can move the brakes forward or you can move the brakes backwards. If your car is really loose getting into the corner, you can move those brakes forward and that will help tighten the car up. The opposite is also true. If you're really tight getting into the corner, you can move those brakes backwards and that'll help free the car up under braking while you're using the brake itself. So these guys will be using some of that tonight, and that's an adjustment that you can make. Like I said, if you wear your stuff out early on, that's a very important adjustment. Move those brakes to the rear of the car. That basically wants to lock up the rear of the tires just a little bit while you're under braking and slides the rear end getting into the corner, helps it turn.
Thanks, JR. I sure hope Neville Ulf was able to hear that here tonight, because as far as I know, he's a dirt guy. And I think this might be the first time we've seen him here on asphalt. I don't even know if he has the brake bias setting set up in his car here tonight.
Yeah, that'll definitely be something that you want in this race. I know you can do it from the black box screens if you have a mouse that's available to you, but that is very difficult to do. You'd much rather have a button already keyed up and ready to go.
And speaking of Neville, I've been watching him, and being a dirt guy, I'm sure he's used to a loose car, but I don't think he's driven one quite as loose as this. He's one of the guys that I've been watching getting very loose going in. He tries his best to save it throughout the middle of a turn. Sometimes he's been able to, but other times he's ended up looping it around.
Yeah, Joe, and I too came over from the dirt, and the one thing I've never found on asphalt is a cushion.
Something to save that rear end, right?
That's right. No matter how hard I try, I've never been able to find an asphalt cushion. But some of it is still similar. I think the super late model is a little bit like driving a dirt car. But, JR the King is someone who has demonstrated the ability to go fast on dirt by just driving it like it's asphalt.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things you can carry over from dirt to asphalt. Guys have been very successful doing it. I've kind of done the opposite because I'm not a dirt guy, and I've carried some of that asphalt stuff over, and it really pays off, especially when the track is slick. So that's one reason why I try to run as many different cars as I can, even road course races, anything I can get behind the wheel of, because a lot of that stuff will carry over and be very useful in the other races that you run.
That is for sure. I've tried doing the same thing. I'm not a road racer at all. I still can't go 10 laps without falling off the track, regardless of what road course I'm on. Still working at it though. But asphalt's kind of been my home on the oval side. Dirt, still working on it, still trying to get the hang of it. I did not do well in the super late model shootout tonight. But looks like we're getting ready to grid up here and get ready to go. All right, starting on the front row, it's going to be Adam Shorn with Neville. And then in row 2, it's going to be Thomas Hilbert and Joseph Snyder. Chris, go ahead and take the last row there.
Starting on the inside, Kurt Smith, followed by Stephen Hilbert, rounding out the field as we make our 29 seconds to go here for the green flag for the qualifying race for tomorrow night's shootout. Joe, who do you like here tonight?
Well, I believe that Adam has probably one of the best chances, not just because he's starting on the front row, but also because he's come close to winning a few BRL Super Late Model races. Kurt, even though he's starting in the back, he could be a good one to watch tonight. He's probably got the most experience in this car of everyone in the field.
Yeah, for
Neville
me,
dropping to the back for some reason.
did he ask for an EOL?
Guys, I do know that he just purchased this track, so like you said, very new to asphalt, just now getting into this this type of racing and this track specifically. So he probably wants to make sure that he doesn't cause any issues, but I think he'll be fine coming back through the field a little bit.
Yeah, you know, he's one I think to watch. I think he'll figure it out as the race goes on. But I've got my eyes on Joseph Snyder, who is the fastest in practice. I think if he drives a cautious race, I think you'll see him up there at the front.
Yep, and there it is. It has popped up on my screen that Neville did ask for a EOL penalty. Looks like these guys are going 40 laps tonight. I thought it was 80, but I'm showing 40. Is that what you guys are seeing?
I see 40.
Yep, I see that too. I know we've had some issues earlier in the night. Maybe the same thing here.
Green flag is out, and we are underway. Looks like Adam's going to take the early lead. They go down the back straightaway. Adam really pulling out there. Thomas on the inside of Joseph, trying to get by for second.
Yeah, and Joseph's got a lot of speed. We saw that in practice. I'm not sure if he's just kind of taking it easy here, saving his tires. Looks like we saw Neville spinning in the background there.
Yep, Neville got a little sideways there. He's able to get going, so it doesn't look like there's going to be a caution. But that's going to put him way behind on everything.
Adam Shawn stretching out his lead a little bit here as we go into turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing there, guys, he was behind Kurt Smith there. Kurt's very good with driving these cars. He knows the line to take, taking kind of a normal line and entry there, and it looked like Neville may have tried to outbrake him or brake a little bit later than what he thought he needed to there, and that's one of those things we talked about. It just sends the rear end right around.
And we got caution on the track for the 61 of Thomas there. I didn't quite see what happened. I kind of caught the tail end of it. He was spinning on the front straightaway. Let's check out the replay.
Oh, you see him getting loose there coming off the turn. Yeah, just no way to save it.
Just like you were talking about earlier, JR, the tight in the middle and loose off. Got to be very, very ginger with that throttle.
Yeah, so turns 3 and 4 are really tough. There's some multiple lines that you can run down there at the bottom, or you can run up toward the top side of the track. At the bottom, it's very, very flat. The banking goes completely flat like you're on the apron, and there is a lot of bumps down there, especially up off of turn 4. If you have the steering wheel cranked too far to the left and you start to apply that throttle when you come across that bump, that is what you will see happen. The car will immediately come around, and it usually does it so quickly that you're not able to have any type of a chance of saving it.
Well, JR, you pretty much just described the first 2 or 3 times I raced an ARCA car here at this track, because I did that a whole lot.
Yeah, it's really tough in these cars, and you know the preferred lane around here is usually toward the very bottom of the track, being able to hit your apex at the very bottom of the track against that white line. But you have to be very ginger with the car. In 3 and 4, you do have a little bit of an option of running up higher, but it looks like these cars, the way they're set up tonight, are getting a little bit too tight in the center of the corner to make that work early on. I do expect later in the run for that to be effective.
We are getting ready to go back green here. The iRacing pace car dives off onto pit road. Green flag in the air, and we are back underway.
Adam Shawn gets back out to the lead here, coming down the back stretch. Joseph Snyder starting to try and make his move towards the front.
That was a great jump for Adam. Thomas has already moved up a couple of spots now after restarting tail end.
Stephen Hilbert holding his own in third with Thomas Hilbert in fourth. Neville Olfe's starting to figure these cars out. We'll see if he can make a run towards the front as well.
JR, do you think at this point they just kind of want to get settled in, get some laps in? and kind of keep the car under control. Try to make it for a big run towards the end.
Yeah, definitely. You want to take care of your tires. Looks like we only have 40 laps in this feature instead of the 80 that was planned, so a little bit of a shorter race. But you still got to kind of take care of your tires, and the car is not going to feel good until after you get 5 or 6 laps going on them. So right now they're just trying to fill the car out, get the tire temps and pressures up, and then they can start to race a little bit. So we should start to see that in the next 2 or 3 laps here.
Towards the back, Kurt looks like he's trying to catch up to Neville there. He's closing in on him. Should be able to make a move on him in a couple of laps. He was peeking there as they came off of turn 2.
Yeah, Adam still has about 200ths of a second gap there over Joseph. Joseph's starting to make a little bit of move here. We'll see what we got here at the end of the race.
Kurt did make it around Neville there. Nice clean pass on the inside.
Joseph got a little bit loose, ran up high there in the last turn.
That'll drop him back just a bit.
Yeah, Adam seems to have this race under control. He's even figuring out some different lines here, seeing if he can save his tires and just make sure that he protects his lead in case someone starts to make a run here at the end.
JR, at this point in the race, if you're Adam leading the race right now, as long as the lead is not being threatened, would you take this opportunity to test out a couple of things for tomorrow night, possibly?
Oh yeah, I absolutely would. I mean, these guys all know that they're all locked in, so no matter where you're running, I'd be trying to move around, try some different stuff, just see how it works at different times during the run, so you know what you might have. The one thing about Adam, once you have a half of a second to a 1 second lead, you can kind of try those things, and when we're riding on board with Joseph, we could actually see Adam, he's really arcing it into turn 3, which is big here. That will save you a lot of time. You'll produce faster lap times. You'll take care of that right front tire. You'll also take care of your right rear tire because you come off the corner straighter. That is the preferred line through turn 3, as you see there. And he's never touching the very bottom because it's flat and it does slow you down a little bit. But you can never really run that line when somebody's right behind you. They're always going to try to dive your inside. So he's got the opportunity to do that.
Kurt moves it up another spot in the 4th position as he.
Oh, the leader getting loose, coming off the turn across the front straightaway, sideways. Caution on the racetrack.
Oh no!
Yeah, and we just talked about that. We didn't see Adam really touching the bottom of the track. I think when we watched the replay here, Adam got lower through turn 3 and 4 than what we have seen, and he kind of hit that bump and it sent him right around.
That is so frustrating. We have probably all been there at some point in our life. You've got things under control. You start to maybe relax a little too bit, and a track like this can just come out and bite you.
Well, either that or else you can blame it on the commentary's curse since we were talking about him so much. The good news about this is that we are a little bit past the halfway point, so we get to stack them back up and run them again. It's going to be Joseph and Steven on the front row as Adam has dropped all the way back to 5th. So he's going to have about 15 laps or so to get back up to the front.
And the thing is, guys, with Adam having that issue there at lap 25, that's good practice for tomorrow. He knows exactly how hard he can push the car before it starts to go away, or how you can drive it once you get 25, 30 laps into a run. So this is good experience for him. Now that he slid the tires, like we said, no tire changes here, his tires are going to be a little less grippy than the rest of the field, but he'll be able to see how that car feels as he tries to attempt to pass these guys that come back through the field.
And JR, that's a good point. You know, one of the differences between iRacing and real life is in a situation like that, do you actually flat spot your tires? Are they now out of round? Do they create a vibration? Are they not gripping as well?
Yeah, we don't really have the whole flat spot thing in the oval cars just yet, but it does take tire grip away, so you lose grip moving forward, and you will have a slower lap times because of that.
And we're back to green flag.
Green flag is back out, and Joseph takes off to a good lead there. And Kurt now moves up into second place. And Adam already making a move in the back there on Thomas, trying to move up into fourth.
Neville's starting to figure these cars out. It looks like is that a caution in the back?
No caution though.
Wow, that's unfortunate. No caution on the raceway. It would have been nice for both Neville and was that the 81 that went around?
The 61 of Thomas.
Yeah, guys, that's something you're probably going to see a lot of tomorrow night. It looked like the 61 had to check up just a little bit for the car in front of him, and the guy behind's already committed to the corner going in there. You can't just stop these heavy stock cars. Contact was made. Even though it was slight contact, it did spin one of the guys around, and that's probably going to happen quite a bit tomorrow night.
Yeah, with these cars here, it doesn't take much contact to send somebody around. More than anything, it's just got to be the right spot, and you can barely touch them, and around they go.
And that's what's so difficult is that, you know, you're trying to race hard, you're trying to race clean, you put your nose in there to make the pass, and if two cars come together, someone's probably going to get the short end of the stick.
Thomas there quickly moved out of the way of the leaders as Kurt is catching Joseph there. They head down to turn 3. He closes in quite a bit. I think Joseph gets a little bit better run off the corner, but Kurt is better getting into the corner, it seems like.
Yeah, and some of those in-car shots of Kurt, he's definitely up on the wheel, trying to make a run here on Joseph Snyder. I was really enjoying to see how Kurt is driving the car. Gets a little loose coming off of 4, still driving the car very hard as he starts to attack Joe.
Currently, the pace between Joseph and Kurt is maintaining. Kurt slowly closing in. I think he may be gaining a half a tenth a lap, if that. So he's slowly wheeling him in as we are going to have... Oh, maybe it is 80 laps tonight because we are on lap 40 and I do not see the white flag.
Yeah, Joe, I got to tell you, iRacing says this is 3/10 of a lap of a gap between Joseph and Kurt, but whoa, Kurt gets loose in the wall coming into the turn there. He's got some damage on his right front. I don't know how that's going to affect him here. What have we got going on behind him, Joe?
That was, I just barely caught the tail end of that. Looked like he got loose and chased it up the track and just barely scraped that wall. Hopefully he doesn't have too much right front damage. Although these cars are very sensitive to damage, especially that right front. Meanwhile, in the back, we got Adam. He's chasing down Steven there for the 3rd position as he's trying to make his way back up through the field. The car just doesn't seem to have the same speed that it had earlier after his spin.
Yeah, it does look like Kurt has regrouped the car, although I do see some right front damage. Meanwhile, you're right, Adam Schoen is starting to pressure Stephen Hilbert. Adam trying to make his run back up to the front after having been in the lead, getting a little bit too loose coming off turn 4 and spinning it around. We'll have to watch him and see how he does with about 35 laps left to go.
Adam taking a peek, not quite enough there to make the move. Again, another one of those situations. It looks like he's driving it in deep, closing in on the 10, but then as they come off the corner, the 10 stretches back out. Very hard to maintain that closeness with him.
Yeah, and I just saw Neville pull to the inside. Unfortunately, it looks like he's decided that asphalt just isn't his game here tonight. Didn't want to spend the time to learn how to get these cars around the track. Would have been nice to see if he could make a run and, you know, come over from the dirt side over the asphalt, but I have a feeling he'll be back for some more.
I agree. As Adam is really putting the pressure on the 10 car, closing up on in the middle of 3 and 4 there. Now closing in again in 1 and 2, but it's the 10 car pulling away as they come off of turn 2.
Yeah, I think Kurt might be pushing this car too hard. I think he's starting to use up that right front as he tries to make a run on Joseph. I bet pretty soon you're going to start seeing Steven Hilbert and Adam Shawn catch up here to Kurt here pretty soon.
Now we may end up with a 4-way battle for the lead by the time this is over with.
Yeah, Kurt's really pushing up the track as he comes off the turn each lap here as he tries to make his run on Joseph. I don't know if he's going to have a right front to last here another 15 laps.
On that damage on the right side could be making it push up the track. Could that be what's going on with the 6 car, JR?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're at a short track, but definitely aerodynamics do play a part a little bit. So the more you damage that right front, the little bit less grip you're going to have. I'd be more concerned about the left front being damaged or the valence, and he looks like he's in pretty good shape there. The one thing about his right front fender being damaged, the way it's damaged, it's actually cooling the top side of that tire, the outer portion of the top side of that tire. So he may be actually having a lower tire temperatures than what Joseph Snyder is experiencing, and in return, that's going to produce more grip the longer we go here.
That's a good point, JR, because he is definitely gaining ground on Joseph Snyder. We'll have to see if this plays out into a battle for the lead.
Oh, and Adam has looped it again on the front straightaway, nosed it gently into the inside wall.
We have a battle for the lead here going into turn 1 as Kurt trying to make a run here on Joseph. Looks like he's got the inside coming down the back straight. We've got a new leader coming out of turn 4.
Things just got interesting. Nice pass there by Kurt. Maybe that damage on the right front's kind of helping him more than it's hurting him.
Yeah, and the one thing is, when he had his accident and got loose going into the corner, he found the limit of the race car, so he knows exactly how hard he can push. Now he's not pushing beyond that limit anymore. You see, he's been very successful getting into the corner and getting the car all the way down to the apex in the center. So he's found the limit of that race car. He knows how hard he can push it, and he's using it to its full grip level at the moment.
Yeah, your point, JR. It actually seems like he's driving off the turns better than I've seen the whole night. I think maybe that little incident made him more knowledgeable about what he's got to do to get around this racetrack.
Yeah, and it's a huge advantage to these drivers to be able to run this race and make it into the race tomorrow night. They're getting a lot of seat time. They're filling out their cars, no tire changes, so they're finding out exactly how hard they can push early and what the car is going to do late in the run.
Are you suggesting they will be in better shape than the rest of us?
They definitely have more experience, so we'll have to stay tuned to tomorrow and see how it plays out. But yeah, definitely, if I could be in this race, I would have wanted to be.
Kurt now pulling away. He's got 0.7 of a second lead over Joseph, and now Steven is closing in on Joseph. Is it possible that Joseph's burned out his right front?
It's extremely possible, Joe. That's something that can happen very easily in these ARCA cars if you're overdriving the entry. I do know that Steve spent a lot of time this week practicing with this car at this track and asking people a lot of different questions. So he's figured out how to save his tires compared to where he normally does in the super late model. He's been complaining about wearing out that right front tire. Clearly, he has not done that in the ARCA car. He is one of the fastest guys on the track right now.
And that is awesome, because Steve is definitely one of those underdogs that you like to root for. Tries his best. Unfortunately, doesn't usually get the results that I'm sure he's looking for. So the way he's driving right now, if he can drive like this tomorrow night, he could have a really, really good night.
Yeah, and when we're riding on board there, we actually saw Joseph Snyder get loose going into turn 1. Almost contact with these guys through 3 and 4, very tight there. But Joseph's getting loose under braking, getting into turn 1, and in return making himself very tight to the center of the corner. And that's where we saw Steve really close up on him during that last lap.
As we get into the later laps, JR, is there a point where you start to worry about burning up the right rear? If you've adjusted your brake bias to get yourself to get around these turns, is there a point where maybe it's a little too much and you can start to get too loose coming off the turns?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, it's all about how as we're watching. Oh, we got contact.
Oh, we got caution
here. Now they save it right at the moment, so both drivers continuing on here, doing a great job of not wrecking each other, but making contact, both saving the cars. But absolutely, if you use your tire up early in the race, that right rear will be extremely hard to handle late in this race. I'm seeing that a little bit from Joseph getting into the corner. And a lot of times you think about the right rear tire, as we're watching the replay here, it looks like Joseph was a little bit tight. Steve went for the pass and just kind of drifted up into him just a little bit, but synchronized, almost spinning there. These guys both saving it.
Great job driving by both drivers. No caution. Both guys were able to save it. Move Steven up into second place. And Kurt now has a 5-second lead over second and third right now.
Yeah, and I just watched the replay of that silhouette spin. Most judges gave it a 9 or a 10 out of a 10, but the Russian judge gave it a 4.0. I don't understand.
I'm looking back at Adam, who's about ready to go a lap down. I'm sure he'll get out of the way, Kurt's way here shortly. And there he goes. So Kurt having a phenomenal race, stretching out his lead to 6 seconds. He was one of the guys that I talked about early on. Out of everyone in the field, him and Adam probably had the most experience in the field in these cars. So he was definitely one to look at, and looks like he's doing quite well this race. Steven up to second. Awesome run for him. I'm sure he wasn't expecting that at all tonight, as we are getting down to about 5 laps to go here soon.
Yeah, Joe, you and JR touched on something that I think is very valuable. These drivers took advantage of 2 things. Number 1, get into the field for tomorrow night. Number 2, what can I learn? Adam, he knows he's fast. Maybe he overdrove his car a little bit tonight, but now he knows where the limit is. He's in the show for tomorrow. He might be one of the people to watch and for the rest of us to race against tomorrow, because he knows what he's got. Kurt Smith, meanwhile, also similarly, he knows what he's got. Stephen Hilbert starting to figure these cars out, and Joseph Snyder coming back after a period of time away from the BRL. He'll be in the show tomorrow night. I think we've got several racers who could make a challenge to get at least beyond mid-pack tomorrow and make a charge for the front.
Yes, I agree with you there. Now, just to throw a wrench in everything, if the weather tomorrow night is way different, is it going to throw a wrench in everything they've learned tonight, JR?
Yes, it absolutely could, because the weather tonight was about as good as it is going to get. Nice and cool on the track in the 70s. A lot of grip on that track compared to where it would be if we end up being in the 90, 100 degree weather range. So definitely you could see how hard it was to drive these cars. It was awful slick out there tonight, but this is the best conditions that you could hope for.
Wow, that's a good point, JR. I have to believe that you take notes. I have no idea how different track temperatures change the driving style, but that's something to know.
Well, and the race ended 5 laps earlier than we were expecting, so Kurt Smith coming home with the win tonight, and a great run for Stephen Hilbert. We're going to take a quick commercial break and give our final thoughts on the race tonight and talk about tomorrow night's Stone River Shootout. And welcome back. Going down the final running order, Kurt Smith is your winner tonight. Stephen Hilbert finishes second, one of the best runs I've seen him have. Joseph Snyder takes your final podium spot. Chris, go ahead and go with the rest of the running order.
Yeah, Adam Schoen, I thought he was going to win this one tonight. He really had the field match in practice. But, these cars are hard to drive. He got a little bit loose, but he may be someone to watch tomorrow because now he's figured out what is up and what these cars will do. Tom Hilbert coming home in fifth. Neville Ulf, who, as far as I know, is a dirt track racer. So to see him show up here tonight and run some asphalt was wonderful. It'd be great to see him tomorrow night on asphalt as well. I think we've got a great lineup for tomorrow. I hope everyone tunes in. We are all here to give you the best production that we can, some quality racing, lots of respectful drivers, and what a great night.
JR, and talking about tomorrow night, we're going to be going 120 laps around this place. And the good news is, though, is that we do get one extra set of tires. Not to give away your personal strategy. You think the strategy for the vast majority of the drivers are going to be tomorrow night?
Yeah, so it's different from the other BRL races that we run tomorrow night, being like the all-star race that we do each year. So we do have a set of tires that you can change. The race is slightly longer, being 120 laps instead of 100. So you do have to go further. Ideally, you would kind of want to take your tires about midway, but you're never going to be able to make a pit stop here without losing, I think, 2 laps. Under green flag racing, so you're going to want to make that stop under caution. The problem with that is you never know when the cautions are going to land. So if you get a late caution with, say, 10 or 15 laps to go, if you're somebody that has a set of tires left, you're going to be able to fly through this field compared to the other guys. But again, you're taking a gamble, so if you get a caution around halfway, it's probably going to be your best bet to take tires.
Chris, with all three of us being in the race tomorrow night, do you have anything to add to strategy?
Yeah, what I think I heard from JR is that he's willing to pay $10 for someone to spin him out about the halfway point. No, all kidding aside, like JR, he's going to be fast no matter what happens. There's a few other people, Kibbe. You've got Justin Morton. Brandon Proudfoot could show up tomorrow night, and he's demonstrated the ability to be fast on asphalt, even though we know him to be a dirt guy. So I think many of us are going to be cautious, try and save our tires, see when the caution comes out, and there might be some of that juking and jiving on a caution flag where someone might pretend that they're going to stay out and suddenly drop in. And then there might be someone else, not going to say who looks like they're going to come in and actually stay out to gain track position. So I think tomorrow night could be really interesting depending on how the caution flags fly.
Well, I don't mind telling everyone what my strategy is going to be, because my strategy is going to be real simple. Keep the car under me, don't spin it, don't wreck, avoid wrecks if they happen, and I believe if I can do that, I should come out of there with a good finish. Tire change, that's just going to depend on when and if the caution happens. Hopefully we'll have a chance to get some fresh rubber on. For some of us, it may be the only advantage that we get, but that's going to be my strategy. Just keep the car under me and try not to wreck it.
Pretty similar, Joe, and I'm going to sign off, and I just have to say thank you to J.R. Shepard for joining me in the booth. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Ryan Seneker for running the broadcast, and Joe Segala, the weeks that you and I have had together have been an absolute pleasure. So to join you in the booth, to join you on the racetrack, to join you anywhere has been my privilege. Thank you, guys.
Likewise, Chris. As we sign off, the next BRL TV broadcast is going to be the mini stocks for the 4th season. The first race, that's going to be Thursday, September 22nd at New Smyrna Speedway. It's going to go live at 7:10 p.m. Eastern. The Bootleg Racing League Stone River Shootout Race will be tomorrow night on the Virtual Grip Network. That broadcast is going to go live at 9 o'clock Eastern. Please make sure you check that out. It should be one heck of a race. Thank you, everyone, and you guys have a good night.